So Harish, welcome to Sports Talk by Sports Paddock, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Sunaina, for having me here. Love being to your show.
Yes, and before we dive into our questions, let's have a quick and short brief about you for our viewers before we dive in. You're currently working with the national as the National Development Officer for the Squash Racket Federation of India, and have been doing so for the past 6 years. Uh, Alongside, you are also the development officer of the Indian Triathlon Federation, where you're responsible for executing events, activities for the federation, and also increasing the number of national ranking races in the country. And before that, you had worked with Sports Mechanics, where you had worked with them for 3 years. And I believe that this had given you the much needed base where you dived into all sorts of activities apart from the business of sports, but you got into analytics. You worked with all sorts of players, athletes, and businessmen. And this gave you the much needed foundation as well. And this is also because of your background in sports, as everyone knows that you have been bitten by the sports bug at young age, and you've played cricket throughout your life. And even though you didn't take it up professionally, you still wanted to be associated with the game. And hence you took up all sorts of extracurricular activities with all kinds of sports. And here you are, and you've come a long way in life. And this is where we want to sort of address your experiences and come out with the reality of what sports is and what all kinds of platforms are in today's world. So let's dive into it. So the first one is about your current role as a sports as in developing sports. This is a very broad term, right? Developing sports and sports development. Where do you actually start in sports development in your current role, and what do you prioritize?
I think any sports enthusiast nowadays can give you a presentation on sports development, and the most cliched initiative would be let's go to schools in every district, identify talent, etc. But to initiate, you need a lot of financial support, dedicated resources, volunteers, etc., which are not easy in most of the sports. So you can only put together a workable plan only when you deep dive into the events, players' performance, coaching scenarios, referees, etc. And most importantly, strategizing on how to overcome the that respective sports pain points. When this homework is done, automatically you will start prioritizing right set of events and activities and its action steps. So that's when the sport starts to develop. It need not be always going to a school and developing the sport. It can start from different lines. So it's very important to understand the priorities, their short-term goals and long-term goals, and then devise plans accordingly, which are practically implementable. Only when you implement activities and events in the country in different part of the region, the sport automatically starts to develop. And that's actually the sports development.
So is this what you have implemented in your role in squash as well as triathlon?
Yes, it's been that's how I started with squash. So it took about 1 or 2 years for me to understand the squash scene in different regions of the country, and to an advantage for me, squash was not played in so many different states, so I didn't have to dig in too much in different states. So but then I started with baby steps. We did not have much of fundings as well to straight away go in and say, okay, let's do events there, let's do activities here.
Promoted,
So I had to play around with what was there in my hands, and then smartly partner with people, and then do it. So that is how I have been doing things in terms of various aspects of the sport. Let it be technology, let it be raising sponsorship, or increasing the number of athletes, or increasing the number of events. I've always done it in a very slow and step by step manner.
Lovely. No, and I think you raised a very curious point about sponsorships. So when you talk about sponsorships, like you rightly said, squash doesn't have or doesn't acquire that funding very easily. Whereas you talk about a sport like cricket, anything from the smallest district level tournaments to something as IPL always gets funded. So how do you come up with a model or the right strategy to sustain and implement um, such a move for sports?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Ma'am, I'll just answer for what I know. According to me, there are two types of raising funds. Number one is through selling advertisement spots to the brands to put their logo on or their product in our avenues. That is direct sponsorship deals.
Yes.
Number
Yes.
two is by approaching brands for implementing your initiatives that is going to make a difference in the sport. In squash, I had approached so many brands with the first model and failed miserably. After understanding the harsh reality of the sport, we approached the second model, which is going to a sponsor or going to a brand, asking them for funds to conduct the planned events and activities, and that has been very successful, for us and in squash, and that's why you see a range of events and activities around the country, which was not having that many 5 years back. So just to give you some stats, we used to have about 4 events in the entire year, and majority of and out of that maybe three would be from Bombay and one could be in a Delhi or Chennai. Now we have about 60 to 70 tournaments that are held in close to 20-30 cities in the country. So that is been possible by closely working with brands who has this also same sort of mindset. That is also very important. You need to reach out to brands who have that thought that I need to make an impact in the sport rather than just putting my logo or my product.
You can't always be revenue based or return based.
Branding space. So that's how I've approached, and it has been very successful, touchwood, and I hope it continues.
So when you approached brands this way, I mean, you spoke about approaching the right brands who like sort of had the same aligned thoughts and goals as you did. What were the strategies that had worked with terms or in context to Indian squash for the last 6 years? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
There's so many things that we have implemented in the last 6 years, but
maybe like the top three which have clicked.
Yeah, something that comes to my mind immediately is the our live streaming strategy when no TV channel in India or an OTT platform was ready to broadcast or put any squash content in. There was no one. So a majority of the Indians are know or learn a sport by watching on TV, or they get interested by watching it on TV. And with squash not being seen on TV and OTT, we thought let's start doing live streaming. We started, streaming tournaments from 2015, and our strategy was to send one resource to the event with his phone and with a Jio SIM. And fortunately, Jio was a big thanks to Jio at that time, because Jio offered free SIM with data connectivity.
Okay.
So this changed, this made a massive impact. We had almost every organizer and we charged only just 5,000 rupees. So it was something interesting, and it was something doable from an event point of view. And fortunately for squash, we don't require many cameras. We just need to have a simple still static camera face near the referee, so it will capture every aspect of the game. So it worked really well. So we just say just take care of the resource who's coming to your event by giving it travel and boarding cost. That's all, and 5,000 rupees as the fee. Now India squash has over 7,000 match videos, and we have covered over 10,000 players' footages, and we have also started generating small revenue through YouTube views and through advertisement spots
You've
and most
monetized basically.
importantly, the monetizing aspect as well. So because our views are growing, that has become very good, and most importantly, enabling people from different regions of India or even from the world to watch squash.
Yeah.
Because as I said, no TV channels in India were or in many
Willing to
countries
broadcast it.
were broadcasting. So and I feel it's a contributed success, not just our strategy work,
Starting with the
because
phone, geophone.
the Geo, the resource who was very keen to, who was passionate on this particular role, though he was just getting 5,000 rupees for the entire tournament. And it's a big thing for a guy to just leave everything and then go for 5 days in a train and then stay in some hotel and then just come back with 5,000 rupees. And but things have changed now, and still he's with us. Very fortunate to have him.
Wow.
And then of course the viewers and then the management who have continuously invested and seen how to take it to the next stage. So now we have had we have invested on without someone going to a sponsor or anything, with whatever funds that we have raised through YouTube monetization program or through advertisement spots. We have invested cameras, and we've been able to deal with various internet connectivity brands where to put dedicated lines and commentators from international commentators on
Wow.
coming on board and making it even more more increasing the quality of watching a squash match. That is more important for someone to get interested in the sport and then pick up a racket and
That's how it
start
starts,
finding.
right? You start from
Yeah, that's how
somewhere.
it starts. So I think this is something which comes to my mind immediately, and this is something which has really made a big impact. And then at that time also, digitization and going using social media was the trend at that time. So
It still
every
is.
every sport was looking at and every sport was looking at going beyond TV and starting to look at OTTs, YouTube, Facebooks, now Instagrams and etc.
Correct.
So this is something which we took a stand in 2015, and it has worked really well for us over the years.
Definitely. And I think realizing that digitizing and going online is so important, but you can't, obviously, you can't show anything online without having the event, which brings me to my next point. Like with COVID, with the second wave of COVID that has hit now, and with the third wave that's going to be predicted, and with Commonwealth and Asian Games around the corner, what are the challenges that the Squash Federation is now facing and you are facing, and what's the plan going forward?
To be very honest, it's terrible for us because we already lack public facilities, as majority of the squash courts are in the clubs, and clubs have been shut for over a year now. So some of the top players are even struggling to find a court to just hit the ball. That's how
Oh my God.
bad it is because there are very few squash courts that are allowed to open, or it is a standalone squash facility, because it is always part of a club which has other facilities, and or it's part of an institute which is being told to close. So it's been little tough. It's been not little. It's been extremely difficult for us as an administrator. We've not been able to execute any events. Focus currently is more towards the four players who are looking at representing India at the Commonwealth Games and Asian Games in 2022. We have planned to conduct maybe back-to-back events in one city in a bubble environment. Once situation gets better, and then maybe we're looking at supporting them for training abroad. If they are not able to train in India, maybe send them abroad and train in a country where squash is open, and then we are looking at monitoring their wellness aspect, that is their the physicality, the nutrition aspect, because that's something that we are a little behind comparing to other international or the top players. So it's not that we are we are lagging a lot, but it's something that if we can enhance, if our players can enhance, all our players are fit, but if we can enhance and do a little more, I think we would be we'd be able to finish with a gold or silver rather than finishing with a bronze or top
That's
four.
the goal.
So, we're looking at doing this online program through sports science online program with the help of Center for Sports Science Excellence in Chennai Ramchandra University.
Wow. Okay, that sounds like a good plan. I mean, considering the difficult scenario, at least you have some sort of plan in place to help your players sort of at least keep moving forward than being stagnant.
Yeah, it's at least we have to do this for our top players. We have we used to have 50-60 events, as I told, in a year, for which is catering for different age group of players, right from whether it is a professional, amateur, or a beginner, whether it is a coach or a referee or a administrator. We used to have events and activities for everyone. And imagine we have not been able to have one single event this last 15-16 months. It's just terrible for us as a sport, and squash being a little contact sport where they are in a inside a four wall, they get closer, so it has become a little difficult when we come under this contact sport. So we are not being given permission, but of course health comes first. Sport can wait, but there are jobs and things to be done which we've been planning to do for the last 4 years.
And speaking of jobs, this is one job that you're having to deal with, but squash being one, and you being recently appointed as the development officer of Triathlon Federation in India, how do you prioritize or how do you juggle both roles? What do you have planned and how do you manage it?
I believe in following systems and processes rather than focusing on immediate results. I've created robust systems for squash, and I've been doing the same with triathlon as well. I primarily rely on technology, so it's automated, and manual interventions are all avoided during our daily operations. In simple words, in simple, we need to be creating an ERP, which is an enterprise resource planning system, which is an online platform where where there is solutions and actions for coaches, players, viewers, parents, and everybody. In simple clicks, every stakeholder of sport has information on the go nowadays. That's what we have done for squash. We have developed an app where you can allocate a referee. The system automatically allocates the referee, and notification goes, and then they can respond. They will submit their tickets, and then it gets reimbursed. So instead of doing a lot of, I'm saying this is one part. So this is sort of doing a lot of phone call, communication, email, manual emails, and all those things. This is all done, automated. So like that, even the app can take registration, payments, automatically create fixtures for the tournament as per the rules. Results are generated, statistics are there for viewers to view and assess. So these are all automated. Like as we speak, if there is a tournament going on, things are just done without any manual intervention. So
wow.
I'm a firm believer of technology, and I feel that's the best way to go forward. And especially with a small team and with 2 different roles, and I'm just looking at first part is creating systems and processes
and streamlining processes.
Yeah, and preferably technology process systems, so there is very few manual interventions.
Wow. And you seem to be doing a pretty good job at it, because you handling two different sports, like vastly different sports. And though you've been a cricketer all your life, but you've come into sports and you are working in the sports industry with no master's degree or no sort of sports degree in hand. But you've made such an impact in sports, squash, and in triathlon, and you have plans for it. How have you been executing it? Like, where is this all coming from?
If you're complimenting, or if that is a
No, it's a
compliment, then
genuine,
the
it's a
credit
genuine
goes to
comment.
and then the credit goes to my bosses who have had trust in me, backed me and given me the freedom to explore. To start with, Ramki sir from Sports Mechanics, he agreed when I said I wanted to explore other sports market, and even though I was a cricketer and I had zero knowledge of other sport. Uh, and then my current boss, Ramchandran sir and Cyrus Pocha, for backing my ideas and fueling it. It's all about confidence, Sunaina. Once you do something from scratch and you succeed, automatically you will be empowered to do similar things again and again.
Yeah.
And it's just that confidence. Once you do something and you succeed, and that's all, it automatically flows. So it doesn't matter whether you played the sport at the highest level, or you're a gold medalist in your university. Doesn't matter. It's just that someone needs to back, and you need to believe in yourself, and put in that hard work, and automatically things will just flow.
Wow. That's a nice thing to say. And I'm sure people who reach out to you will always ask you, like, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I manage this? And I'm sure this is the first thing that you tell them as well.
Yeah, very much. That's something I've been, a lot of people, and especially when I was in sports mechanics, and a lot of students who are just coming out from sports management degree and all, they were all, the first thing was, they all saw this sports analytics or the analyst in a cricket match. And so many people ask me how to become an analyst, how to get a job, so. But it's a very difficult question to answer, and I think rather than me telling, they know the answer actually. They should find out the answer by themselves.
No, but it's true. I mean, you were lucky because you were already passionate about sports, but when you dived into it, how did you manage to find your niche? Like, passion is one where you can get into sports and then sort of get lost in it because there's so many opportunities. But how did you find your niche in the sports industry, and how did you advise aspiring students to sort of get into the right path into sports management, or after getting out of sports management?
See, it's important to understand your strength and your weaknesses, your likes, your dislikes, and if you genuinely have an idea, you think that you are good at something, or something you want to do, something that means something to you, try to do it. Uh, because you can do your best work when you do what you like, and most importantly, you have to do it well, and you can't you shouldn't quit at midway. Give it all. I've said this to many, because this is something which I have done in my entire life. I've just done what I liked, and I've just backed myself, and I've done it. And fortunately, it has become successful, and I think it will be, and it is the right thing to do, rather than doing something just because you need to get a job, or that's just because uh, uh, you get a better pay in it. It might not it might not sustain for a long period of time. So doing what you like is something very important, and that's what I will always tell. Whether it is in sports or it is in a different business, it doesn't matter. Just do what you really like. And in sports, the same way. You wanted to learn more about sports, go learn. But what is the agenda for it, and then what is your goal, what do you really want to be in, and just go go after that and do it in the best possible way. That is all I would say to all the people who, in case if somebody is seeking advice from.
No, of course, I completely understand that. But on the note that you said that, initially getting into it without having any sort of number or salary in mind, how long can a fresher or a person who's just getting into sports management or working with sports keep doing this? Because eventually you can't always sustain working at, say, a fresher's salary. So where is that point where they should start peaking, or they should start like hiking up?
It is. I'll just tell from my experience. Before sports mechanics, I was in another company, which is also into sports technology, same line of business. That is something which I really like to do, but you will see that thing in you when you will have that sort of a vibe that, okay, this company is not going anywhere unless the company grows. You are not going to get your hikes. Simple as that.
True, absolutely.
No bosses are going to pay from their pockets and to keep you, happy or to increase your pay. So, as an employee, you should assess where the company is going, or you should see how you can contribute to that company and take it to the next level. So when you assess or when you do this step, automatically you will grow. And if that does not happen, you will have to look at
Other alternatives.
plan B or another option. And that's what I personally did. So I gave my best with my first company, which was in the same business. I mean, sports analytics, and somehow things did not happen for various different reasons. Or there were, like companies like Sports Mechanics and others who are already well established. So they were the front runners for teams to, to give them the contract. So we were somehow not going through, and as you said, I was not getting enough paid, and it was really, and it was for a long period of time. So I thought I should make a move, and then I fortunately got into sports mechanics. But again, I just continued my, what I really liked, rather than going into something different. I could have taken my father's, role of becoming
In the family
becoming a
business.
businessman, or I could have been happily driving a car, and been a simple and easiest move, but something I did not like. So I continued to chase my passion, which was which was offered by another company, and then I did the same. Put in my hard work. Saw different ways of raising revenue for the company, and automatically they looked after me. And that's the same thing I'm doing even in squash as well. So I continue to do what the vision of the federation is, and the federation automatically looks after me. So it's kind of both ways.
Both ways.
But you need to keep your mind and open, and keep it. Don't have to be narrow. Should be ready to step in and do different work, because only when you do different tasks, you learn and you explore and you understand whether you are good or you're bad, and what you are capable of doing it. So especially when you are young, when you are given an opportunity, and if you think that you can do it, just do it. Don't hesitate just because you're not paid or something.
No, true. And I think what you're saying will help a lot of people who are stuck in that, I'm not getting paid enough. What do I do next? Like you said, they should either get into something that they like, so that they don't think about that aspect, or they should start looking at other opportunities where they know that there is a growth prospect. I think that's what they should be smart about.
Correct.
But in sports itself, there are so many departments, from strengthening and conditioning, coaching, nutrition, analysis, analytics, what you did. Which aspect is given more importance in India? And if someone comes to you, what would you tell them or advise them?
See, in India, coach will continue to be the boss or the one who will be, heard more than anybody else. That is not going to change much. But having said that, things are changing, or I can say confidently that it has changed a lot in India. managements and teams and players are looking at different different sides of the sport, you know, and started to believe that the coach can not alone make a difference. So there is a role for a nutritionist, there is a role for a strength and conditioning trainer, there is psychologists, there are masseurs. All play a major role for a particular player's success or a team success or the entire sports success. It's not just the coach. So having said this, there are so many different departments, and there is scope for in all the departments, and it is not just being a coach or just being a player is where you can make your life. But again, it again goes back to uh, what you really want to do, what makes you happy, what it really makes a difference, and you'll have to just stick to that. And every department of a sport has a scope and big future. So whatever you're good at, it is just go for it. Improve your skill sets by volunteering it or doing these new sort of online programs that are there available everywhere. Equip yourself better, and then just trust your your strengths and just go with it. And that's what I would just simply advise.
And I think one should not get into a particular niche or a field in sports just because of the result or what they see outside on the field or what the person does. Like for analytics, a lot of sports management students love the fact that they can sit next to or meet an MS Dhoni or a Virat Kohli and sort of see the glamour or in action. They also should know that there's a lot of back end work to reach that, and they should know that there's a black and white to it. Like there's also a long pathway to it. Same thing for nutritionists. They can't always be the nutritionist for someone who's big in any sport. They have to work towards it, right? So there's a path which they should be well aware of before getting into it, right?
Yeah, that's what I feel. When I was in sports mechanics for about 4.5 years, or even when I left, a lot of youngsters used to come and say, "How do I work in sports mechanics? How do I become an analyst? I want to work for the Indian team." Straight away, they want to become. Straight away, they want to go and with go for the Indian team, not just the district tournaments and all. They want to straight away go to the Indian team, and yeah, that's how they were approaching. But then it's a lot of hard work behind an analyst, and it's not just the person who's seen in the frame is doing the work. There is a massive back end team sitting from office and was crunching data, was assessing, doing a lot of
putting in
research
extras
on so many different things, and then that person shares that information with the person sitting with the team, because there is not much a person sitting with the team can do, because he will be questioned. He has so many other things to look at, so it is very difficult for him to work like a back-end analyst. So so front-end analyst is more like a promotion, or I would say it's more like a, okay, you have done all your hard work, now go enjoy. So that is how, because the majority of the work is actually done by the back-end analyst who's sitting at the office, back-end team, back-end analyst, I'm saying, from sports mechanics. Because the person sitting in the front end, basically, he sits and tags maybe few instances and maybe gathers inputs from the coach or player on what to be done, and then he understands what really the inside things, and then he goes back to his team, shares what the team wants, and then gets that information and pass it on. He's more like a middleman, but to get there is so much of work to be done. So so that's what I used to say. For example, I remember my boss Ramkisa used to say, to become a front-end analyst, you have to tag 1,000 cricket matches. Then we will talk about you going with the team. So that's where people will say, okay, fine, is there any other role that I can do?
Yeah, I know. They should be well aware of the hard work.
So people, yeah, so there's a lot of hard work, and sometimes they don't see the other side of the role. Just because the strength and conditioning, trainer or a psychologist or a physiotherapist or a masseur not sitting in the dugout, it doesn't mean that they are making a change or something. So you know. Kids have to start looking at where is their interest, how is that I can make a difference, what are the right things to do, and then go after that, rather than just seeing what is in front of them and then trying to chase that will not work. There are only 8 IPL teams, and there are hundreds of people who want to go for IPL. So you need to know what is your priority and how you need to shortlist your legs.
Absolutely. And I think you've given a very honest upfront opinion about what you've done, what the current scenario is in sports, and if anyone wants to get into it, how they should think. Whether, even though you've been working with the Squash Federation and now currently with triathlon, you've had a lot of back-end experience with cricket, and which every sports management personnel wants to jump into. So you've given a very upfront opinion about it, and we'd frankly like to thank you for that, Harish. You've been really helpful, and I hope our viewers also will benefit out of this talk, because you've given very, very valid points. So thank you so much.
Pleasure talking with you, Sunaina. It's love to chat on various aspects of sport and different topics. Something I find something will be really useful, as you said, for viewers who are looking at are who are kind of stuck on what to do.
Definitely.
Or what are the other opportunities. And I think whatever I've said would make some sense and would help them in channelizing their life.
Definitely. And thank you so much for that. We hope to get back in touch with you once you've reached another milestone in your life again. But until then, you've given us a lot to ponder over. So thanks, Harish.
Thank you so very much, Sunaina. All the very best.
Thank you.